Where is the untamed hero Eustace Conway, who was a survivor of the mountain men? He has been our go-to guy for all things forest-related for a long time, showing us how to make do without modern conveniences while retaining an admiration for nature's untamed splendor. Nonetheless, a peculiarity has been uncovered by enthusiasts recently. Nobody has seen Eustace on the show yet. Finally, has he thrown in the towel? Has he gone on a wild new adventure that nobody saw coming? Does his absence have more complexities than what meets the eye? Stay tuned, because we're going to delve into life's depths. Who will be one of the most interesting TV personalities in the outdoors in the years to come? Some people know Eustace Conway from his TV shows that make people question their beliefs about how to survive in the wild. But he had already achieved fame thanks to The Last American Man by Elizabeth Gilbert and Adventures in the Simple Life by Sarah Vowell. Why? Unlike other ecotourists, Eustace is unique. In the wild, he really is a magician. Despite the presence of Wi-Fi in our living rooms, that man seemed to be more at ease in the woods. His long hair, lack of clothing, and hands that could seemingly construct a log house from toothpicks only add to the mountain man's air of mystery. How did Eustace Conway become the man he is now? We should go back. Their names are Conway, and he was born to Karen and Eustace Robinson Conway. Columbia, South Carolina was the site of his birth in 1961. 3 of his brothers are named Judson, Walton, and Martha. But let's be honest, no one gets rich off of television. As a result, he is currently the center of attention. An attraction for nature has been with Eustace since he was a little boy. His family's numerous movements, according to some, played a major impact. Whatever the case may be, his lessons revolved around matters of the earth. His grandparents and mother were not very tech-savvy. They preferred things like trees, animals, and digging in the dirt. During his first 17 years on this planet, Eustace slept on the streets. Eustace was camping in the mountains outside Asheville, North Carolina, while the rest of us were in our cozy suburban houses. Also, his grandpa had founded Camp Sequoia in 1928, and the land where he lived was part of it. Despite growing up in a normal Piedmont suburb, he started working out in the woods before television cameras were even invented. Its readability and fluency are preserved in this revised version, which has a lighter and funnier tone. Anyone who says they were poor as a kid because they lived off the land or in the woods may have had a tough upbringing. That is not, however, the situation with Eustace Conway. A multi-pronged education was bestowed to his parents and grandparents. Their wit and fascination with the natural world were obvious. They saw the forest as more than simply a picturesque place to enjoy a picnic. There they carried out their research. Their favorite pastime was spending time outside, doing crafts, and watching the natural world. Like his brilliant father, Eustace Robinson Conway, who was a renowned lecturer in chemical engineering and possessed a vast understanding of the natural world and the periodic table, Eustace was a very bright young man. He often took little Eustace on adventures, like hikes to look for plants and whitewater kayaking trips. In the process of learning to weave baskets and paddle through rapids, Eustace honed a number of abilities. The youngster had limitless potential. He or she could swim, climb rocks, ride horses, shoot arrows, you name it. His likeness was reminiscent of a Swiss Army knife. However, this was insufficient in Eustace's opinion. At 17 years old, he was ready for something more serious or understated. Even though many would call it youthful defiance, I think it was wise of him to leave home and live in a teepee in the woods. Indeed, a teepee. Eustace learned how to construct a fire and cook his own food while other kids were begging for later curfews and obsessed with their high school sweethearts. For him, the concept of roughing it was synonymous with independence. He squandered his independence, you know. Eustace learned more about survival than your favorite TV survivalist in just 17 years of living off the land. He built homes, farmed crops, and hunted game wherever his wanderlust took him. One of his best moves, building a fire from the ground up. On your most recent camping excursion, you wouldn't have needed a lighter or a 10-page guide because Eustace was with you. Now let's look at the man's clothes. Set aside your Gucci and Armani. Eustace sported authentic buckskin apparel. It was basic, but it provided him with warmth and security and fit in with his naturalist lifestyle. It was sturdy, functional, and perfect for storing tools. Eustace was dissatisfied despite his opulent lifestyle in the woods. The chance to start his own line of country wear presented itself to the man. He expected a lot of energy, and he got it. The limits of human endurance were always being tested by Eustace. In the company of whales and icebergs, he paddled a kayak along the frigid Alaskan shore. He also barefoot trekked the entire 2,000 miles of the Appalachian Trail and canoed 1,000 miles down the Mississippi River. During another time, he walked across the Atlantic Ocean to reach Europe. I believe you read that right. This person went above and beyond just going to the park. He became the boss. Eustace accomplished more than just enjoy the natural beauty on these outings. He has excellent communication skills as well. Many indigenous cultures who lived in harmony with the natural world were his friends. He learned more than just how to survive from these events. They enlightened him more on the interdependence of many civilizations in the natural world. Unlike Eustace, who would merely pass through these locations, he became one with them, learning new things that changed the way he looked at life and other people. But hold on a second. Not only that, but Eustace was no mere nomad. He had a couple of regular jobs before he became an outdoor guide. He was the official interpreter for the New Mexico government at Chaco Canyon National Park. He worked as a state naturalist at North Carolina's Crowder Mountain Park. In both domains, he excelled. It would be fantastic if a renowned naturalist could help you construct your park. Crowder Mountain did quite well under his leadership. It was in nature that Eustace thrived, not merely existed. Since Eustace's grandpa and parents were also educators, it was bound to happen that he would follow in their footsteps. Environmental disasters and sustainable lifestyles were topics he began to discuss after gaining extensive understanding about Native American culture, ethics, and way of life. He became a prominent environmental activist and beloved instructor due to his unique perspective and practical knowledge. Reality television meets wilderness education in the form of Eustace Conway's life story. His adventures and trials showed us not only how to stay alive in the wilderness, but also how people can change to fit their surroundings. No matter the subject, a near-death encounter or hard-won victory, the stories that Eustace related about them were instructive and enjoyable. Honestly, how many people can say that doing what they love for a living become their full-time occupation? Even if it would be useful if your dream is to live in the woods, having an ally like Eustace shows that your dreams can come true. Neither Eustace's wealth nor his fame are immediately apparent. It would seem that he is not a popular TV host. He seems like he stepped out of a time machine with his long hair, buckskin clothes, and subtle grace. But don't be fooled by its unpolished exterior. There is actual cash on hand for this individual. With a fortune of over $200,000, Eustace is the head of the nonprofit Turtle Island Preserve and the proud owner of a substantial piece of land. The property is currently valued in the millions. Who would have thought you could make a killing by acting like a Victorian? There is more to Turtle Island than meets the eye. This is Eustace's dream project. He bet it all on a 30-acre plot, which he later increased to more than 1,000 acres today. The land is used for environmental preservation and self-sufficiency education. Think of it as his take on Disneyland, minus the roller coasters and more goats to milk. Nature, history, and a quick survival crash course come together at this site maintained by a nonprofit. It brings back fond memories of the simpler times before the rise of technology and pizza delivery services. The central subject of Turtle Island is the importance of being independent. Food is grown, harvested, and prepared by humans. In order to keep warm, make food, and even melt metal, people build fires. In addition to using plants for medicine, they create their own tools. You shouldn't expect a five-star establishment if you go there. The dwellings are modest yet cozy, constructed from wood and bamboo. The need for exquisite bathrooms and kitchens is superfluous. You are roughing things up just like Eustace. My guess is that it's for the best. In a wooden house, no one likes to light a fire in the kitchen. The plan for Turtle Island that Eustace drew up was simple. Allow people to live their lives unencumbered by modern conveniences while we protect a tiny patch of earth that has remained untouched. He wanted to show everyone how Earth seemed before evolution, people, and other natural forces changed it. Even though he tried his hardest, Eustace had to make some concessions in order to maintain the institution loyal to its founding principles. To begin, he has increased his level of accessibility. He has been hiding out in the woods for months, but now he is ready to meet with anyone, do interviews, and reveal all his secrets. Also, he's dressed differently now. There was a subtle change in how Eustace dressed. His attire consisted of a shirt, pants, and on occasion, a cap to protect his face from the sun. Regardless of how small the change, even mountain men should strive to look their best. It is possible to achieve success and happiness even in the absence of modern conveniences, as shown by the life of Eustace Conway, as he pursued his goal on Turtle Island, which included making fires and milking goats. His one-of-a-kind work encourages people to bond with the natural world. Furthermore, how many of us would be able to endure even a single weekend in the wilderness, let alone an entire lifetime? In contrast to his more rustic counterparts, Eustace is enjoying life to the fullest. Eustace Conway has risen to the status of wilderness fame from his modest origins as a mountain man. Some publications have written on him. The number of interviews he has had is too much for him to manage. And when he really wanted to be the spotlight, he even gave Elizabeth Gilbert ideas for her novel, The Last American Man. If you have read the book, you will recognize him from the back cover. He is as calm as a cucumber and completely unfazed by the hustle and bustle of modern life. He seems like he stepped out of a frontier survival guide. A number of people paid attention to Eustace, not only Gilbert. Radio shows featuring him, such as Ira Glass and Sarah Vowell's Adventures in the Simple Life, have brought him a huge fan base. Living the American dream, naturally his most famous role is as Turtle Island Preserve on Mountain Men, a History Channel series. At the beginning of the show, Eustace showed people how to live off the land and become self-sufficient. It was like his idea of getting cozy with some Netflix and some goats, complete with fireplaces. Still, he wasn't done yet. He decided to improve Turtle Island's facilities so that tourists could enjoy the island's natural beauty without feeling like they stepped into a scene from Castaway. Word quickly traveled about Eustace, and he became famous. From his humble beginnings as the town's eccentric woodsman to his meteoric rise to national fame, he serves as an inspiration to a new wave of naturalists who are seeking knowledge about the simple life. As expected. Just when Eustace thought he was finally ready to retire in peace, a new person showed up at his doorstep due to a lawsuit. Someone informed him that his desired parcel of property didn't meet specific government requirements. Making your own fire and milking goats, who needs regulations when you can do that? With his usual doggedness and resolve, Eustace responded and eventually prevailed. As word got out that he had fabricated his reputation as a fighter, more and more people came to Mountain Men to witness the real man. Just when everyone thought Eustace and the Mountain Men would get along famously, he shockingly quit the show. Speak with a low voice. The amount of money, is that the star? The endless crews of cameras? The response was as simple as Eustace's usual fare. Someone who has always enjoyed complete independence. I started to feel like I was in a cage, watched all the time. The cameras and planned episodes didn't exactly scream one with nature. The constant attention and maybe a lot of paperwork weren't really part of it, though. Eustace has long gushed about how lovely it is to live on his own terms and be near nature. Those who know Eustace well know the reason for his departure. Fans may long for his return on television. Given the constraints imposed by filming schedules and drones, but how is it possible to impart knowledge about the wonders of nature? Even though he is no longer seen on television, Eustace Conway isn't stopping him from following his dream. People whose lives are uncomplicated serve as an example to the rest of us, and they show us that sometimes the best way to connect with the world is to just step back and let go. When you have goats and a few acres to yourself, who needs the paparazzi anyway? Many Mountain Men supporters believe that Eustace Conway's decision to quit was motivated by his heartbreak. Remember that it takes time to grieve the death of a beloved companion and travel companion. For nearly 35 years, Preston Roberts served as Eustace's trusted advisor in addition to his role in the ensemble. They conquered challenges, broke down barriers, and probably had more inside jokes than we can count. Because of the depth of their friendship beyond what was shown on screen, the news of Preston's death from liver cancer in season 6 was devastating. He felt it keenly. Since losing a loved one may make you question everything, it's no surprise that Eustace sought consolation in the woods, his natural habitat. But sadness isn't the only emotion that can be felt in response to Eustace's death. Some have speculated that it might have something to do with the rate of new membership at Mountain Men. Some of the cast members have been there for far longer than the show's 10-year run. Take the lovable Marty Maiorato as an example. His decision to step away from the show and focus on his relationship with God is understandable, but it's funny that he's being followed by cameras in a faraway place. But after parting ways with Margaret, Morgan Beasley set out for Alaska in search of a quieter, hidden from view. For Eustace, who has always prioritized his relationship with nature over the pressures of television production, witnessing his friends and co-stars progressively depart may have been the turning point. When a film team is always pulling you back, going off the grid becomes meaningless. And that's not even counting the dull ones, like the time he wrecked his car while transporting lumber. A guy who domesticated the wild could have been able to overcome a pile of logs. Whether it was depression, anxiety, or just too many cameras disturbing his peace, he may have wished to permanently go into the woods. Truthfully, staying true to himself is important to Eustace, even if it means going back to the trees. That's where he feels most comfortable. I thought that was the whole point of Mountain Men, wasn't it? Living your life to the fullest, Eustace is this time following his instructions, even if there are no boom mics present. Let's talk about Eustace Conway, the character from the Mountain Men. If you've been following along, you know that Eustace is quite near to his truck. When he thought it might not be able to treat it, the man seemed to age 10 years in an instant. As though he were remembering each and every log that the truck had ever carried, they darted across his face. Things start to get interesting, or at least a little scary for the unfortunate guy now. In accordance with the way you see, Martha and Eli are among the new characters introduced in season 11, but where is Eustace? In fact, he isn't even present. If you really want to ruin your favorite comedy, just leave out the top character. Fans were already coming up with wild ideas. Is Eustace resigning from his job? He could be working on a massive ecological project that requires him to be off the grid, or he could be taking a much-needed vacation. Get your popcorn ready, since the action was short-lived. Our man seems to be planning to come back. There is no one on the roster of people set to make an appearance in the next season other than him. Stop worrying, the situation has been resolved. It would appear that we are still receiving survival instruction from Eustace. No matter how much time passes, Eustace is still having a blast. A huge number of people follow this man online, and he keeps doing what he does best, leaving the house to show other people how to accomplish it. His programs that show people how to stay alive in the wilderness have been causing a stir in the field of education. Plenty of basic information and guidance regarding how to remain safe while hiking in the woods. The best aspect is that it's totally not-for-profit. Talk about helping other people. Individuals of all ages are being educated in the art of subsistence farming. That is, unless it is shorter than Eustace. If you want to care enough to protect nature, you have to love and experience it, as Eustace said once. Someone who probably started the fire that morning by rubbing two sticks together is as enraged as that person. The inclusion of a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson was purely coincidental. Your noise level is so high that I can't make out a word you're saying. Not shallow at all, is it? But then he stops thinking and his eyes light up. Up in that white oak is the largest squirrel I've seen this week. Impressive. Philosophy and wildlife commentary are like a tennis match. On the other hand, Eustace sees the lynx. His Turtle Island Preserve in Boone serves as a place of beauty and education for people to help them reestablish a connection with nature. Thousands of people have had the opportunity to experience this traditional way of life, ranging from students to executives who choose to light fires with boughs instead of PowerPoint presentations. His adventures in the woods have been the subject of several stories ever since. He attended Appalachian State University while subsisting on farm produce and rocking buckskin. He also walked the Appalachian Trail and rode a horse across the U.S. because it was more interesting than driving. Following this, he established Turtle Island Preserve. For the last 22 years, he has been sharing his wisdom on how to live a more sustainable lifestyle without Wi-Fi. Old and rough, and as far as Eustace is concerned, life should be that way. We can finally put an end to the age-old conundrum now. Has Eustace Conway tied the knot? It seems like there isn't a magic solution. His personal life is shrouded in secrecy. Neither wedding bands nor Instagram posts depicting a mysterious partner were there. Just living his life to the fullest, going on one crazy adventure after another was all that Eustace did. Isn't that the thing that draws you to him? He shows us that standing up for what's right isn't always easy, but that it's occasionally required.